Hey guys, we're taking a look at a line that I have never actually owned a figure from today. This is my first Robot Spirits figure, which is actually one of my toy regrets, if I had to label it as such, because there are a lot of figures in this line from Bandai Tamashii Nations that I have wanted and have never jumped on, and now they are out of my price range. But a combination of price and timeliness and cool factor and word of mouth from other folks have made me wanted to get this particular figure, so we're taking a look at him today. So we have got the GIPSY Avenger figure from Pacific Rim Uprising, and you know, this is the new mech, the new main mech for this movie. I haven't seen it yet. I'm going to see it when I get a chance. I'm interested. I definitely want to see it. Love the first movie. So this, I don't know if this is standard packaging for Robot Spirits, for Robot Tamashii. I don't know. But it's cool packaging. We've got the big window here. We've got shots of the Jaeger on the side, on the front. We have got some product shots here on the back. We've got the Bluefin sticker down here because they are the domestic distributors for this line, and then the Japanese product warnings down there on the bottom. So yeah, pretty standard packaging, but it's a good good presentation. But otherwise, let's pull them out and do it. Alright guys, so here's GIPSY Avenger out of the package, and there's a lot of reasons why I'm interested to look at this figure. I like Pacific Rim, I like the Jaeger designs, I am a big Tamashii Nation supporter, but I've never bought Robot Spirits before, so I kind of think of this as the robot version of SH Figuarts, sort of. So that keeps me interested in that respect, and even more so is the fact that this guy only costs 20 bucks. So I'm really curious what $20 equates to from a Tamashii Nation standpoint. So let's do paint and sculpt, articulation, the whole 9 yards, and see what this guy has to offer. So as usual, we'll do articulation first. And this guy has some interesting articulation. Some design elements of the figure itself are just kind of stop things from moving. Some things don't move the way I expect them to. And there are a lot of double ball pegs on this figure, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but I keep finding them as I look at this guy. So let's just take a look and I'll show you what how he can move and what moves and how it moves and all that stuff. So the head can swivel. It kind of exists in this little cavity on the shoulders. So the head can swivel, but it eventually will hit the sides unless you kind of pick it up a little bit. It has a little bit of give. It'll look up, it'll look down. So it has a good range of motion. You just have to watch these indentations. The arms can technically go all the way out, but the shoulder pads are pegged onto the arm and they will stop you eventually. So if you pop these off, there's a double ball peg there. It will allow you to move it all the way out if you so choose, but that kind of defeats the purpose of having that shoulder pad. The arms are hinged with two, so it's a double. We've got a double jointed elbow. There is a bicep swivel. So it's kind of standard stuff there. The wrists are ball pegged in. They are kind of interesting. The plate on the top of the wrist will rub against the hand depending on how you rotate it, so just kind of watch it. It does rotate fine. It's just one of those things, you know, watch what you're doing so you don't scratch it or anything like that. There is a waist twist here. Well, I guess it's a diaphragm twist. And a little bit of bobbing action. He doesn't really have a crunch. It's just kind of the way this figure is designed. He doesn't crunch at all, really. Just kind of, you can kind of get him to look down a bit. Move the legs with the torso a bit, and you can kind of mimic that motion. The legs at the thigh, another set of double ball pegs that go into the crotch piece, the inner crotch gears maybe. I don't know what you want to call the inside. What this silver piece is in here, it's actually pegged into the torso. So the whole thing swings like a pendulum, which actually does help move him quite a bit. It's like an extra bit of articulation inside the groin almost. But then the legs can go out. You can see it kind of moving that with it. It's kind of unsightly depending on how you do it, so be careful there. But the legs can go out pretty far. They can kick all the way back because of those rotational joints at the balls, which work, well, that's a wrong way to say it, but you know what I mean. And then we've got double jointed knees. They go back pretty far, basically until the plates hit the plates. So that's good. And I like this joint. I like it. It looks very mechanical. It looks really cool. We have got the feet, which are another set of ball pegs. They can rock forward and backward kind of all over the place, so you can kind of move them from side to side. You can twist them, you can turn them, you can hinge them up and down, and then they just move all over because of the fact that those are, again, more ball pegs. So in that situation, that works really, really well. Mostly you're just going to see an issue of it's a robot. It's got some interesting geometry in places, so it might start to rub or hit as the various armor platings hit each other. But for the most part, I think the articulation is pretty cool here. It's just an interesting use of what I can see being maybe 6 to 7 to 8 different kind of ball pegs that are all over this guy, but it works pretty well. So I think you'll be able to get him in some pretty cool action-y style poses thanks to all of this articulation. Now, as far as the overall look and aesthetic of this guy, I dig the design. So from the base level, as far as how he looks, I think he's a cool, interesting robot, or mech suit, because he's not really a robot, he's a mech suit. This particular Jaeger is an interesting take on the first GIPSY from Pacific Rim, because this is the new version. I think it's slightly different. I honestly can't remember too much about it. I just know that it looks pretty similar. We have got mostly molded plastic here, and I think that lends itself to the $20 price point. There's not tons and tons of paint on this figure, and that's not necessarily a negative. If the molded plastic works, there's no reason to paint it the same color, so I can get on board with that. But there is a lot of, you've got the little, like the decal kind of applications for the numbers here, and then the logos on the side and on the chest. We've got a lot of that red piping, which I think looks really good against the kind of gun metally gray and blue that we're working with here. You've got the various silvers. We've got the, and I say it all the time, the great use of translucent plastic for the kind of core that sits in the chest cavity of this Jaeger suit. And then there's not a whole lot to speak of on the back. I think one thing that might make this guy look a little better, and again, it's a $20 figure, so I have to keep that in mind here, is maybe filling in a lot of this line work with a wash of some kind. Because I just assume that these guys are going to get dirty and nasty in this movie. I haven't seen it, but I am interested. So I just assume that they might get kind of nasty, kind of janky, and maybe give them a little bit of a dirty wash. But as far as the paint, what is here is pretty cleanly applied. It's just, there's just not tons of it. And again, if it's not necessary, I'm not going to fault it as a negative. The overall sculpt on this figure, I think, is pretty fantastic. I really like a lot of the angle designs and a lot of the armor plating that's kind of stacked on itself, especially on this core area. I think it looks really, really cool. It looks very, very futuristic. And I'm just, in general, a fan of this design type. I'm a fan of these suits in particular, some more than others, but this is a good example of what I think is a really interesting Pacific Rim Jaeger design. And overall, the kind of skeleton that they built inside of it with these type of joints in the arms to make them look more mechanical, that go with the knee joints, as well as this kind of piston type system that they're looking at here with those gears on the inside to kind of fill that void with something with sculpted detail in it. I think looks really nice. We've got the very, very cool head sculpt here, which has that nice gold visor on it. And all in all, I think the sculpt work on this guy is pretty solid, especially for a $20 figure. I'm pretty happy with him. I think it's a very good representation of a Pacific Rim Jaeger, and that's really all it comes down to, is does this look like something that you'd expect to find in the movie? And I think that he very much does. Now, accessories. This guy has a handful, not tons, but he's got a few. It kind of goes with, I'm assuming, his move set and his power set in the movie. And he's got replacement hands. So normally you've seen he has the fist hands. He has these set of hands that are more kind of clawed. My only real problem, I think, with this figure in terms of a legit issue is I don't really like these hands. I like the design, but I don't like how they peg in. The actual the peg hole is on the top of the hand, so you can see right there that it's actually meant to be positioned in a very specific way, and you can't really get it out of that. There's no real way to do it, so it's kind of like maybe he's doing like a slashing motion almost, but I would prefer to be able to put him in that if I wanted to, not because I have to. You can also kind of set him up to maybe where he's going to do a Kamehameha. I don't know, does he do a Kamehameha in the movie? I'm betting he doesn't, but that would be pretty cool. So we do have extra hands. They do fit a specific need. I have been able to get him into some interesting poses with them, interesting action type poses. But like I said, I would prefer to have the option to use these hands in a different manner, and they're just kind of limited because of how you have to peg them on. And in addition to the extra hands. We, of course, because it's a big mech suit, we have extra weapons that are attached on this guy. And these are basically arm replacements. So you pop the entire forearm off either side, and you have two swappable arms here. So we've got, this guy's called the Gravity Sling. It's a big hand cannon of some kind. I don't know what it does again, but it's got this nice translucent barrel on the end, which I think is pretty cool, and these kind of three prongs at the end there with some silver paint applied. And then my favorite of the two, though, is the chain sword. And this guy is an arm replacement, but you also then put one of the hands back on. So you just put one of the fist hands on if you're so inclined. And then you've got this nice long metallic blade. And I know we saw this in the first Pacific Rim movie. I don't remember if this other thing was in it or not. This guy's got they both have little red paint on them to kind of go with the theme of the red piping, similar to the other arms because they're basically the same. But they are very cool, very, I don't know, very Pacific Rim. It's very much what I expect to see out of this toy, and I think they did a good job of bringing these into the figure, and I like how they swapped them. I'm glad that this was not just a barrel that goes on the end of the arm instead of the hand. I'm glad this was an entirely separate arm. As well as for this guy, I'm glad it's not just a sword that attaches to the arm. It gives everything a little bit more stability when they are an entirely enclosed piece of plastic. So at the end of the day, I like this figure. I think it's pretty cool. It's got a lot going for it in general, from sculpt to paint to articulation to accessories, and its price point is obviously a huge factor, and that's got to be part of the reason why so many people are talking about it lately. I don't know that I really knew what to expect going into this figure. I still don't know if it actually meets my expectations of what I think a Robot Spirits figure is, but that's because I'm expecting it to be a $40 to $50 figure in some aspects, and it's not. It's a $20 figure. So I was expecting maybe more when I really shouldn't have, and I do think they delivered on the price point for sure. Honestly, this should be more than a $20 figure. It certainly beats a lot of other $20 figures right out the gate, and I'm actually interested to get a few others. I'm not going to get all of them. The Saber Athena figure in particular is very, very attractive to me, so we'll see about that one. But I do like this guy. If you're a fan of mech suits, this guy's something a little different. If you're a fan of Pacific Rim, you probably should get it. It's 20 bucks. It has a lot going for it, and you know, it might just be the gateway to more figures for me, more Robot Spirits. We'll see. You never know. But for now, that's going to do it for this look at the Bandai Tamashii Nations Robot Spirits GIPSY Avenger figure. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and share. And until next time, guys.